Imagine discovering that the most destructive war in human history, the war taught as a moral battle of good versus evil, was also one of the most profitable business events ever recorded. Imagine realizing that behind every battlefield, every tank, every explosive, and every burned-out city, there was an invisible marketplace quietly funneling money, fuel, metals, chemicals, credit, and information to both sides. And imagine that the institutions orchestrating this shadow economy weren't villains hiding in bunkers, but major banks, corporations, and political elites still operating today. World War II wasn't just fought by nations. It was financed, lubricated, and accelerated by an economic machine far larger than any army. And once you understand how it worked, you'll never look at global power or modern conflict the same way again. Before the first shot was fired, powerful financial networks were already preparing. The major banks of the United States and Europe had spent decades building transnational ties, credit lines, gold corridors, industrial contracts, and commodity routes that didn't disappear simply because governments declared war. Money doesn't recognize borders, and corporations don't fight wars out of patriotism. They fight or supply the fight because war is a market. From 1933 onward, long before the world realized what Hitler was building, American and European firms were quietly shipping technology, machines, patents, and fuel to Germany. Standard Oil supplied crucial synthetic fuel formulas. IBM provided the computing power that organized the German census and military logistics. Ford and GM operated factories inside Nazi territory, all legally, all profitably, all under the logic that business is business, no matter who dies. At the same time, European central banks funneled gold through shadow channels to prop up regimes they publicly condemned. Neutral nations like Switzerland, Sweden, Spain, and Portugal became vital arteries in this hidden economy. Swiss vaults stored looted gold. Swedish factories delivered the iron ore Germany needed for steel. Spanish ports facilitated covert trade. Portuguese wolfram, critical for weapons, was auctioned to both sides. These countries were never neutral. They were brokers, and brokers always get paid. But the financial story becomes even stranger, because while Germany relied heavily on American technology and neutral trade routes, the Allies depended on corporate partners just as deeply. American companies made engines, trucks, and bombers for the U.S. Army, while simultaneously earning royalties from subsidiaries that supplied the Third Reich. British firms relied on colonial extraction networks: rubber from Malaya, tin from Burma, grain from India. The Soviet Union, despite its ideological hostility to capitalism, built tanks using American steel, tractors, and machinery purchased years earlier. Even Japan's war machine depended on U.S. scrap metal sold to Tokyo throughout the 1930 seconds. It was only after Japan struck Pearl Harbor that America cut the flow. By then, Japan already had the raw materials it needed to burn half the Pacific. The war economy was not a patriotic machine. It was a global ecosystem, and every nation was both a customer and a supplier. When the war fully erupted, money flowed through even darker corridors. Gold looted from Jewish families in conquered nations didn't sit in German vaults. It moved through Swiss banks, was melted down, recast, and sold on the international market. The proceeds bought rubber, fuel, chemicals, and machinery from neutral states. Nazi officials funded secret operations using accounts in Lisbon and Bern. British intelligence manipulated global insurance markets to destabilize Axis shipping. American factories ran 24 hours a day, feeding an industrial boom that ended the Great Depression, even as their foreign investments quietly earned dividends from enemy-controlled territories. The Allies didn't expose these networks after the war. In many cases, they absorbed them. The United States emerged as the world's dominant power not only because it won militarily, but because it controlled the financial architecture that survived the conflict. The Bretton Woods system, created in 1944, didn't appear out of thin air. It was built on relationships with banks and corporations that had expanded massively during the war. The same intelligence networks that tracked Axis gold later helped shape the CIA. The same industrial companies that armed the Allies became the backbone of the Cold War military-industrial complex. Even Switzerland, whose banks laundered Nazi wealth, escaped punishment and instead became a global financial sanctuary. The war didn't end the shadow economy, it legitimized it. Consider the corporate executives who met with U.S. officials before the war ended. Many were not punished because their expertise was too valuable. The priority wasn't justice, it was rebuilding a global system with America at the center. German scientists were moved to the U.S. under Operation Paperclip. Industrial patents were seized and redistributed. Former enemy corporations became partners. The economic machine simply changed uniforms and kept operating. But here is the most unsettling part. Many of the mechanisms that fueled World War II still exist today. The same banks that moved gold across borders now move digital capital. The same industrial giants that supplied armies now control the supply chains of the modern world. The same intelligence networks created to disrupt wartime finance now monitor global markets. The same neutral nations that profited from conflict remain major financial hubs. And the same logic persists. Conflict is profitable, chaos creates opportunity, and global corporations operate above the politics that shape the lives of ordinary people. This is why modern wars from Iraq to Ukraine still involve strategic contracts, resource deals, and quiet financial pipelines that rarely make headlines. It's why defense stocks surge whenever tensions rise. It's why central banks stockpile gold during uncertain times. It's why companies with operations in rival countries continue trading even when governments clash publicly. The lesson learned during World War II was simple. Do not disrupt the economy unless necessary. Redirect it, leverage it, monetize it. The truth is that World War II wasn't just a military struggle. It was a global experiment in economic power. The nations who understood this didn't just survive the war, they inherited the world. The United States used industrial might, economic leverage, and financial engineering to become the undisputed global leader. The Soviet Union built a command economy strong enough to challenge capitalism for half a century. Britain traded its empire for a position inside the new American-led financial order. Germany and Japan, despite devastation, were rebuilt as industrial giants precisely because their corporate infrastructures were too valuable to let collapse. War destroys nations, but it also reorganizes the world in ways peaceful times never can. What makes this history so important today is not nostalgia or conspiracy, it's recognition. Recognition that behind every geopolitical conflict lies an economic engine more powerful than any ideology. Recognition that nations do not act alone. They act through the corporations and financial networks woven into their systems. Recognition that wars are rarely fought strictly for morality, democracy, or national pride. They are fought for resources, access, leverage, and control of global trade. The same motivations that shaped World War II still shape the world today. The secret economy of World War II didn't disappear with the armistices. It evolved, it scaled, it modernized. And if history tells us anything, it's that when the next global crisis emerges, the same forces that profited in the shadows 80 years ago will be ready, banks prepared, corporations mobilized, and financial networks aligned long before the public even realizes what is unfolding. World War II was not just a war. It was the moment the world learned that power doesn't belong to armies. It belongs to whoever controls the money that feeds them.